Okay, this video is to Eric for president. I don't think I would ever take anything for president. I don't think I would want to be president of this country, or president at all. Jesus never wanted to be president. He didn't want a position of power on this earth, and was part of the reason why he was thrown up on a cross and you know being that lamb that was being sacrificed for the sins of many. So anyhow, put that aside. Sometimes I say things like that just to give some legitimacy among the conservative crowd, that just so that they understand that a liberal can have a love for Jesus. Okay. Um, the thing is that I think for the conservative crowd, I would really wonder if they're really um, loving Jesus, or if they're just wanting to hide behind a cross and into a clique and present themselves. I would really wonder how much of it is for vanity sake. And I'm kind of avoiding just calling myself Christian because I don't want to be mixed up in the kind of the vain um, presentation of being a Christian in this society, because it usually is about saying that you're a Christian, then not really living up to it. I have this belief that when I'm working for Kroger, I never see tips on Sundays, and that's systemic of something worse, and that is Christians that feel like if they're paying a tithe, and they may not even be paying a tithe, that's 10% of your salary in the collection plate, then you're probably using religion to justify some other lifestyle. And I give way more than a tithe, and I I'm not gonna lay it out how everything I do. But anyhow, I'm putting that aside. I'm going to talk to the sports people that are trying to get back. Um, the thing that really excites a lot of Christians and what excites a lot of people in the world is being able to root for their team. It's the it's the thing that I find whenever I'm at the store. That's the one thing that people can talk about, that gets them talking at all, because they're afraid to talk about politics and they're afraid to talk about religion. And religion to me is just philosophy, that's believed and followed and made part of your life. If it's not that, then organized religions, whenever you're going and you just do it. You just do it, but you don't really wonder what all that stuff in the Bible is about. You don't have to read the entire Bible. All you need is just a little bit of it, and that's the mustard seed of faith. Just a little bit of it, you can push it, and then all the other stuff collects on it, and you start to become. It kind of snowballs into being a Christian, because you're putting into faith that little bit is all you need, and that little bit is just treating people like you would treat yourself. If you could just put that one little thing, a little mustard seed of faith on that one thing, and keep in mind that when you walk, um, you're falling. You're always falling, because that's the only way you're ever going to get anywhere. Is your body falls a little bit forward, but you catch yourself with your foot. And if you didn't do that, you would just fall flat on your face. And obstacles that come in your way cause you to trip and fall, is because you're always falling, and the obstacles are going to cause you to fall. So you have to be able to find your way around the obstacles. And how you find the way around the obstacles is by using that mustard seed of faith and having something to judge your world by. And that's what the word is about, is just being able to judge to find your way through all the turmoil and stress and things that can cause problems. So that's, and there are people that have told me to come and like be a part of their church service because I have a unique perspective, and that's one way that I do it. Um, I have problems, and I've laid that out, but I'm not going to talk about my problems, because I don't think it's, as with anything, even if I was gay, I don't think it's really something to for people to judge you on your problems, but to judge you on your disposition and your ideas and what you have to say in the way you express yourself. They should be listening to your ideas, not kind of your problems, because your problems are just a small percentage of what you are. You have your problems, but then you have what you're trying to do in the world, and that's what's important. Um, so anyhow, okay. And I think God can accept it if you're willing to keep God in your life. You're still okay. It's when the ultimate sin is just to say, I don't need God in my life. That's the ultimate sin, and it's unforgivable when you just keep Him out of your life, and that's what's called the unforgivable sin, and that's what it is. It's really not anything else. It's that one thing. And so, if you can keep God in your life, whatever problems you have on the side, He'll probably see past them if you can keep good on the overall. And you can keep at least the one basic one, which is loving others as you do yourself, and actually loving God with all your heart and soul. Actually, that means that you follow His will, and that will is like all of the things that is identified in the Bible, the various sorts of things. It's not that, one thing is it's not that if you focus in on one thing, there's other things that could go bad as well. So the best thing is just to kind of keep an open mind to all the other things that could go wrong, and just try to deal with everything is a method of just getting through life. And but the very basic one is just loving others as you do yourself, and that means spending money on people, and do it without vanity, without just saying, look what great things I did. Every time I look at that idea of looking at what great things that I did, I think of that comic in that TV show. I think it was Mad TV, and his name, the character's name was Stuart. And when Stuart would do, every now and then he would say, look what I can do. And that's what I think of every time I see somebody doing something out of vanity, going to some benefit, and they give like $200 to the poor, and then they're there to be seen as, it's kind of like, look what I can do. And it's like, so big deal. What? If you can just make it just standard, it's just something you do. If you can just do that, that's better than just doing or an organized religion of going to church and thinking that you're okay if you go to church. Going to church and then not putting into process the things that are in the Word is really not good. And that's the reason why a lot of people are pushing away from church and not even being involved with churches, because they understand that church is not the building, and it's the people. But the thing is if the people are not respecting of you, even if you are following the Word, then it's probably not the place to be, because you're probably going to get judged. And there are people that will say, it's not right to judge, but even the people that are voting for Trump were judging of the liberals, or the people that were not like themselves. They need to be embracing the people that are not like themselves rather than pushing them away. And that's a major problem I see in the world. And so I try to embrace, and what I try to do is I just try to spread the word and all the things that I know that are in the Bible. There are things that I have this problem that whenever I read the Bible, I tend to see bad things in myself. And so I think to some degree it's better for me just to keep what I know about the Bible in my mind, and reading the entire Bible is not going to make me a better person. It's going to, if I can take just one of those things, just treating people better as most important, then I'm okay. And that's the way I think about it. And bringing people to church is not going to get me to heaven. I mean, I guess you've already won that with Jesus, but you can lose it too, and that's by putting stuff between you and God, and putting idols, putting things is more important. I think mine right now is probably going to be virtual reality, but I'm trying to do it in such a way as to give people some relief. So for the people that are interested in making money in sports, it is be in your best interest to embrace virtual reality and the VR 180 format as a method of streaming video broadcasts of games, even if it's in a low resolution format. People will would love to spend, I think, a maximum of $20-$30 per seat to go on the 50-yard line in a football game. And if, say, 1 million people get VR headsets just to do this, you're going to be making just crazy amounts of money on every single game. And you won't even have to fill a stadium. And the people that are driving the cars to the stadium, they're not going to use up greenhouse gases. They're not going to litter the stadium. They probably would eat food, but they're going to eat food anyhow. They're going to eat it in their own homes while they're watching the game. So it doesn't do anything to the food industry. You don't have to provide those foods. You don't have to do really much in the way of management. However, people could keep in mind that even if the pro football leagues and baseball teams won't do it for you, then they can do it themselves. And so all of these old baseball leaguers and football leaguers may go out and play a more softer form of the game, and people are willing to watch it because they are the legends, and they're out of work, but they have the capacity to go out on a field and make millions of dollars in an industry that is not even in process now because of COVID, and it's an option to them. And they could do a light form. They could even wear masks or wear special helmets that prevent them from getting any COVID by being out there on the field and working hard, or maybe even they do it in a video game. But the thing is that people will see their favorites people. They'll see their old football people out there on the field having a fun, soft game of football or baseball, and able to enjoy the environment. And even for the people that just have TV sets, they will have those TV sets to still be able to watch the game. And there will be people that'll be there feeling like they're there in virtual reality. There's a great potential there to make money, and for people to and you don't have to build up stadiums inside of cities that cost taxpayers money. You don't have to set up a special aquarium or racetracks, or try to. I mean, the stadium isn't like church. No building's a church. A church is people coming together, inspiring each other, and that could happen anywhere in any kind of event. That could happen in football. I mean, you could go to church in football, and you could be praying for people, inspiring others, happy that your team's winning or losing. You could do that all inside of a football game. It doesn't have to be at any kind of institution to do it. It just have to be with people and enjoying each other's company, okay? And that's the basis of churches, is to inspire each other. And if you can be positive and be at a game and not feel so bad for failing and come out of it good, then I'd say that's kind of going to church in a sense. And your tithe would probably be spending money on the people around you. Maybe you bring into the experience people who couldn't afford the experience. You give them a VR headset, and you're there at the game, you're eating, and you're enjoying the VR experience. In COVID, you would not be able. You might take one of your old VR headsets and give it to someone who can't afford it, or sell it to them, maybe $100 if it was an Oculus Go, and they'd be willing to pay for it, and it would satisfy them because they paid for something and so they could experience that without the loss of dignity that they might feel by if you gave it somebody. They might feel good about that, but then they feel like, I really am not providing for this other person. you need kind of, you give them the option to give it to them. And if they're willing to pay for it, then you take the money, and that's the way of winning that item and justifying their ownership of it. Um, but you give them the option, and if they want to take it and sell it off to pay off loans and things like that, that's their prerogative. Um, if they see a need in VR, they'll see a need in VR. But to me, it's a great advantage to have virtual reality. I don't see it as the end of all society like some people think it is. I see it as a potential to explore the world without using up limited resources we have, endangering the environment, and people who think that endangering the environment is not a worthwhile cause. Keep in mind that the rest of the world's perception of us is how we feel about the things that they value. And in Germany and these other European nations, they value the environment. They're going to great lengths to protect the environment. And if we're over here saying we don't believe that that's worthwhile to be concerned about the environment, it's going to create problems. It's going to create barriers when we try to negotiate peace on anything, try to negotiate anything. And so we need to value it in the idea that we're trying to love them as we would love them. You see, it's a form of loving others is to accept the things that are not really going against our religion or not going against us. It's valuing something that everybody feels is good, and that will reciprocate, and maybe they'll come over to our side and be like us. Okay, if we're on the right side. If we're not on the right side, we'll be like them, and we have to be willing to go across that bridge. And I think that's the important thing in being. If you think you're Christian, that's the important thing to be, is that when it says we're in the world but not of the world, what that really means is that we're in the world, but we're not living the way people live without God. Okay, we're not valuing the things that people value in the world, which is money, and that money is primary importance. To me, money is a means of survival, but it's also it's something that can help people survive, other people survive, and it's lifeblood. And if it doesn't move, then parts die off. So money is like blood, and the blood has to circulate. The money has to circulate. If money is not in circulation, the government will print more money, and that adds to our inflation. And it really becomes a major problem if the person who has the large amount of money just all of a sudden unleashes it on and goes and buys stuff up or whatever, then it actually lowers the value of the money, because now there's more in circulation than there really needs to be, and then the government tries to cut back, I guess, by absorbing the money that's in circulation. The thing is the more of our dollar that's in circulation, the lower its value, because unless the value is retained in it, and it's not backed by anything, it's just backed by our willingness to trade it. The thing is that when our government prints money in order, like in the stimulus packages of these trillions of dollars, when they give us $1 trillion or $2 trillion because we're out of work, they're actually adding to our inflation, because that money is there to buy services, but then it loses its value because we're not working for it. We're not putting energy into working to make things better. But they're willing to take that step, to take that to put the money in circulation, that to give us money, in order to and may build up some debt for them. Um, they're doing that so that we will be able to be supported, and then we will feel the need to like make up for it. I mean, these are, I guess they're loans, but I don't think they are loans. I think they're paying us to survive, and it's justified because in the Bible there was even a sabbatical year where people didn't work for a whole year unless they were stoned. You know, if you worked at all, then you would be stoned. That was the, but I'd say in that part of the Bible is really pointing out that theocracies don't work, and you don't want God holding your hand through everything. You need to kind of make some decisions about how to make things work. And if you were leaving it up to God, God would do it a different way than any human could, and because it works because His way is to be absolutely faithful to the point where you would believe that He would give you 3 years crops the year before taking the sabbatical, and that you would be okay in the sabbatical. And I don't think anybody could have that much faith in this, in a nation could have that much faith to take a full sabbatical year. I would wonder if Israel's even taken that, but because it is in the Torah, you know, they need to go back and look at the Torah, and if the sabbatical year is there, then and this is what they believe. Why aren't they? Are they putting it in processes? Are they taking a sabbatical year and not working for a full year? And if they are, how successful are they in that? And is it? I mean, is there faith in it? You know, that they're going to provide enough to be able to survive, and be under attack from Arabs at the same. I mean, from the Muslims at the same time. You know, is a real feat. You know, and I think they are doing well, but I don't know if they're taking the sabbatical year or if that is even still in their religion. But I'm ranting, and I noticed I went up into one of my rooms. I have a Christian site, a c3z.me. It's channelz.com, and I had a whole bunch of Max Lucado, and it looks like some of that stuff is disappearing. And I would like to talk to Max, and I would say, Max, if what you believe is true, if what you're saying is true in your stuff, why isn't it free? Because the truth should be free. Lies are free, and why isn't truth free? You know, and sometimes people will charge for lies. Sometimes people will charge for truth. If you believe something is good, why don't you provide that to the world? You know, why do you provide that wisdom to the world? Why don't you let people know it? And if survival is a concern, then I would start to wonder if you have enough faith to actually be able to depend on God to ever give you enough money to survive. And so why are you taking it down off the net? Is it you taking this stuff off the net? Is it YouTube taking it off the net? Also keep in mind the record companies that are taking down music and videos off of the internet. Is their intent to protect the copyright holders, the musicians themselves, or is it to eliminate people's love for such media so that they can make money off of their pop music that they're pushing into the market now? I would really wonder, because the people who really love the media isn't them, it's the people that love that are the fans, and they're the guys that are putting up the content, or they're the people that's putting up sites like mine that try to encourage people to experience new media, or old media, you know. And I was trying to present my site to somebody on AltSpace, and they wanted a YouTube jukebox where you could go to and put out the music you wanted to, and they could put up the music that their friends wanted to. They said they wouldn't subject their friends to the stuff they like. And the thing is that I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you're like me and you're wanting to find other kinds of stuff than the stuff you love, then it's like television. It's going to be something that's playing like a television, and that's what my site's all about. Is to try. It's music discovery. It's media discovery. And one thing I've noticed about television is that when um, you enter it mid conversation, and you don't know what the topic is about, and it has a greater chance of entering your brain than if you know exactly what it's talking about, because you're going to first say, well, it's not something that I'm interested in, and you won't watch it. But with television, you're planted right in the middle of it, and and then you might like something that you would otherwise not listen to. You might like somebody that you wouldn't otherwise listen to, and that's the difference between my generation and the current generation. The current generation includes my generation, but what they're doing is they're only watching content that appeals to them, and that's causing people to get separated and space apart, and getting polarized and stuff. That's one of the reasons for it is that people are only watching what they want to watch, and you need to come in sideways, and you have to talk about the topics they don't want to hear about, because that's the only way they're going to get truth, is if you come in sideways and say, I'm blah 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 blah, and they're in my job as a bagger, in the way I'm presenting myself, I actually will talk about such things, because they're not going to get it any other way, because they're going to go home and they're going to watch their television, and they're going to change the channel anytime something doesn't agree with them. The thing is to keep in mind that if something agrees with you, how do you know that it's not true? How do you know that it's not agreeing with you, that it's being agreeable so to keep you watching? And that's the problem, is that people are very selective about, some people are really selective about what it is they want to hear, and they're not willing to hear the people that have something to say. And then they can't understand when people go out and protest George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and things like that. They can't understand it. The reason why is because they're not accepting other people's speech. They're not listening to other people. They're only listening to the stuff they want to listen to. And that's what my website's about, is providing all the content out there and not having any particular judgment on it. I do have some judgments, and that is I don't let heavy metal and rap, because excessive amounts of cussing and just non-harmonizing chords and things like that. I don't really also have a whole lot of jazz in there, and I don't have country music, because I do have country. I have 8,000 or something like 5,000 country music songs. I don't listen to it, and the main reason is because it seems like a lot of country music is pretty much sounds the same. And maybe I just don't. Maybe there's lyrics in there that I could be listening to, or maybe there are country music that goes off the path. But for me, it's probably the same way that they see my rock music and pop and all the other stuff that I like, disco and stuff, and it isn't acceptable to them. And that's just a matter of taste. But I tried to, in my website, provide for that. But originally started this talking a little bit Jesus, and talking about how the sports institutions could get more money, probably cornering a potential market on VR, or the fans, if they really want to, can just present themselves in VR and go out and perform football games and compete against this institution that isn't willing to actually go out and do it. If you're conservative and you don't have a problem with masks or COVID, and you're faithful enough to believe that Jesus is going to save you from COVID, go out if you really believe that you need to have a football game or a baseball game, go out and do it, even if the government says you shouldn't do it. You have every right to do it. You have free will, and you can go out and do that. I just don't think it's wise, but how do we know what effect we're going to have unless and unless we experience the good and the bad, and learn from it. And so it's wisdom in any case. Um, it's wisdom we're gaining, and it's better if we can gain wisdom, if we can gain wisdom from a source that has wisdom, and I believe the Bible has it. And I would, if you think that any other religion has it, then go and look at those religions and see if the truths really stand up, and also determine if the religions are focused around superstition. That's a problem, because when you worship other gods and worship entities, that's human to worship things for looking for a metaphysical off switch, looking for something that's going to appease some god that will prevent bad events from happening to you. Sometimes bad things like COVID happen for a reason, and that's necessary to open our eyes to actually what's going on around us, and it is. So I think it is from God. I don't think He means all that much harm, but He does want, some people are going to die from it, and the purpose for that is so as to realize that we can't hold on to what we have, that people that we could have been spending more time loving are going to go away, and we're going to lose that. But through that, we gain the wisdom that we have to be loving people more and spending more time with other people rather than spending time with things. Okay. And when I go into VR, I'm really going there to meet with people in alt space VR, and that's one of my favorite places to go, because you can sit there and discuss things that you can't discuss with your friends, and you can be almost completely anonymous and talk about anything that you want to talk about, even the issues of politics and religion and things that people don't want to talk about. However, there are people there that are trying to control that as well, and I think that's sad. But anyhow,